Now, if you were watching this program on Monday night, you would have heard that 56 civil society organizations, including Amnesty International and the Center for Democracy and Development, as well as people like Femi Falana, have called for the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, to immediately step aside. It follows the affirmation by the Appeals Court of the conviction for electoral fraud of Professor Peter Ogban, the returning officer in the 2019 Northwest senatorial election here in Akwa Ibom State, in which Senator Akpabio participated. They said that having been a confirmed beneficiary of the electoral fraud in the 2019 ballot to the 9th Senate, Senator Akpabio did not have the legal or moral standing to contest for a seat in the 10th Assembly, talk less of serving as the President of the Senate. Their words. Well, supporters of Senator Akpabio have demanded a right of reply, and so, in the best interests of balanced journalism, we're granting their request for a rebuttal. And to that effect, I'm joined now in the studio by Kenny Okolugbo, who is a communications and strategy consultant in the office of the Senate President. Good to see you again,
Charles,
Kenny.
thank you for having me.
It's been a while, actually.
It's been a while. I mean, this is the first time you have me talking about a right of reply. I usually will come and do analysis.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what we're used to.
You still owe me for Trump, though. Maybe
Yes,
I'm visiting in September.
I have to be honest.
I'm visiting in September, and I'll tell him that you did.
I have to be honest.
Yes.
Your prediction of a Trump victory was on the mark.
Thank you so much.
So to that extent, I mean, we won't obviously allow that to affect other issues.
Yes.
But I mean, on that issue alone,
That's true.
You certainly made your mark. You've got your right of reply.
Okay, yes. I was taken aback when I was watching. I can't even remember who he was, but he spoke about the fact that
Awal Rafsanjani.
Yes, he spoke about
the
56
chairman of the board
56
of Amnesty
civil
International
societies, and talks about
CISLAC.
Amnesty International. It's a shame, because I don't even expect Amnesty International to go into such an adventure that is only being used by political detractors of Godswill Akpabio. First, in 2019, on the 23rd of February, when the elections were held in Akwa Ibom Northwest, Akpabio lost the elections because Professor Ogban announced Chris Ekpeyong the winner of the election. And one of the grounds of Godswill Akpabio was that 61,329 votes were not added from Esin Udim, which is his own local government. And that if those votes were added, he would have won that election. And that was why he went to the tribunal. He lost at the tribunal. He went on to the Court of Appeal, and he won at the Court of Appeal. Why did he win at the Court of Appeal? They found merit in his case, and therefore they said he should go for a rerun. But remember, he had already been made the minister of the Niger Delta. And so as the minister of Niger Delta, he weighed his options and decided that he wasn't going to go for the rerun. And that was how come the rerun was held, and Ekpeyong remained the senator-elect. Because as at when the elections were nullified, he was no more a senator. So for someone to now come in 2025 to say that a man that went through the tribunal, lost at the tribunal, won at the Court of Appeal, and was the one that was said to have been in fact, was rigged out of the election. That was the allegations. And for the fact that he won at the Court of Appeal, clearly showed that he had a case.
Well,
so how would you now come and start saying that he should step aside? I mean, there's no logic to it. Well, it's a bit senseless if you ask me.
On the face of it, Kenny,
yes,
what you're saying appears to make sense. But
that's a fact.
We have done considerable research.
All right, what's the research?
On this, including with the objective arbiter in all of this, which is INEC.
Yes.
And INEC submitted, the people who represented INEC at the time, Mikey Guinea was one of them, who was the officer.
Who was the resident
electoral officer at the time. Mikey Guinea was tracking local governments across that area and caught many politicians, I won't mention any names, caught many politicians stealing results sheets, carrying out thuggery in Akpabio's area. They came up with more than 61,000 votes when Akpabio was actually trailing based on the confirmed INEC results by more than 38,000 votes. Handwritten votes were taken from the PDP to the APC.
Okay, so
and
can I ask just a simple
suddenly
question?
these votes were, and when they dug further, and this is INEC doing its due diligence.
Okay.
When they dug further, they found that there were 5,000 votes for each local government that were deducted by Professor Ogban. He was convicted for falsifying those results in favor of Mr. Akpabio.
Did you read the judgment?
No, we saw the. We saw the testimony. Listen, there is the judgment. There is the testimony given in court. There are the records of the testimony
and the records that went from the court of first instance to the court of appeal did not mention Akpabio.
Mr. Akpabio went to court.
Did not mention Mr. Akpabio.
He went to the tribunal. No, I'm not talking about the court judge. You have the records.
But the records do not have anything to do with Akpabio. Professor Ogban was convicted for denying Akpabio victory. For not holding up to integrity.
Professor, that's not what our research
No, but Charles, what would your research tell you for a man that did not win an election?
What we found,
and you are convicting someone for rigging in his favor.
No.
Is that logical?
Hold on.
That's not the true position.
It's not about logic, Ken.
Yeah, but it's logic.
It's about the fact that the reason, ostensibly.
But the judgment is not with you. I have read the judgment.
The reason he did not win, according to INEC, and according to the resident electoral officer who was in charge and who was tracking all those things, the reason he did not win was because those votes that were falsified in his favor could not be added. And when he went to the tribunal to challenge, tremendous effrontery, to challenge the results, he lost at the tribunal because the tribunal said there was unparalleled thuggery in that election.
How did he win at the Court of Appeal?
Well,
the Court of Appeal found out that those votes were mutilated. They found out that INEC mutilated those votes, and those votes and the result of a synodem was nullified. And because the
appeals court upheld the tribunal's judgment.
They did not,
but they ordered a rerun in one local government.
You are quoting the appeal court judgment upside down. Sorry to say, the appeal court said the elections were nullified. And that a synodem, they would have a rerun in a synodem local government.
Yeah, that's one local government.
But that vote was enough to nullify the election.
The tracking was across 9 local governments.
The truth about it,
the tracking of the alleged fraud was in 9
the truth about
governments.
It is that Professor Ogban was convicted for not holding up to the integrity of the electoral process, and he was convicted of not holding on to the electoral integrity because Godswill Akpabio was shortchanged. But he was not a beneficiary of the election.
But INEC, the resident electoral officer,
why would you be talking about a resident electoral officer or the judgment of the court?
They were very clear because they submitted evidence, and it was based on their evidence.
But you see,
that convictions
there is no judgment
made.
of that court that had Godswill Akpabio. You see, what is happening here, Charles? We must be very honest. Is that there is a campaign of calumny against Akpabio. People just want to bring him into a program. No, it makes no sense.
Correct.
Somebody was not a beneficiary of an election. Somebody did not win an election. He was already a minister. And you are saying that in 2025 he should step aside for elections of 2023 that has no relationship to 2019.
Of course it has a relationship.
What is the relationship? What's the relationship?
The relationship is that if, according to those who the Electoral Commission,
yes,
he was the beneficiary of that alleged fraud,
How can you be a beneficiary
hold on, let me
of a
make,
fraud
let me
for an
make the
election
point.
you didn't win?
It could not.
Does that make any sense?
No. It could not. Their argument is that they tracked it, but it could not be concluded. They caught it before. Hold on. You're interrupting.
Okay,
they
sorry.
caught it before it could be concluded. That was why it did not reach a logical conclusion.
That is hypothetical. He wasn't the beneficiary of the election. He chose not to go for the rerun. He chose not to go for the rerun. He remained the minister of the Niger Delta. He served his term as the minister of the Niger Delta. He ran a fresh term to the Senate. He's now the Senate president. And some people come and say because somebody has been convicted by the Court of Appeal, he should step aside from his seat. Oh, come on now, Charles.
They looked at the documentation.
Political.
And the documentation, according to INEC, was very clear.
I am shocked they're not talking about the judgment.
They came up with 61,000 votes.
61,329 votes of Akpabio was removed.
Was trailing by 38,000.
It wasn't that he was trailing. The appeal court
and there were handwritten votes taken from the PDP to the APC.
In favor of Akpabio because they knew those votes were votes that he was shortchanged of. Are you not in election matters, Charles? Except you're telling me the appeal court is not the highest court anymore. In election matters, the appeal court is the Supreme Court. For House of Rep, Senate, and House of Assembly. It's only governorship elections that get to the Supreme Court.
What? And
the Court of Appeal ruled in favor of Godswill Akpabio and said they should go for a rerun. For a man that was not declared the winner of election. Why would we be talking about this if not for a campaign of calumny?
It's not a campaign.
It is a campaign of calumny.
It
smells of share.
What the CSOs are.
Did you hear the way he was speaking yesterday? He wasn't even convinced of his own facts.
Well, I heard him.
You are even going to the details. He had no details. He was bereft of any details of what had gone on. It was obvious that he was a hired hand, just brought in to come and distract.
The reason they're calling for him to vacate his position.
Yes.
And they're saying step aside, not step down.
Step aside for what?
He says step aside
for an election of 2019.
They said that
it's laughable.
No. They said that it is important for him to vacate that position.
On what basis?
For the sake of public confidence.
On what basis?
That the argument is that if he remains in office, that would undermine democratic values, and that essentially there is a question that they raise, which is having been, because that's what the tribunal...
The judgment...
Let me just make the point.
Yeah.
That is what the tribunal found.
But he went to the Court of Appeal.
Hold on. The Court of Appeal found...
And ruled in his favor.
The Court of Appeal had a problem...
You are not even reading the judgment.
That's the judgment.
Look at the judgment, yes. What did the Court of Appeal say? The Court of Appeal said he was shortchanged.
Look...
Why did they nullify the election?
Is that
I'm happy you have it. I hope you're scrolling it well, properly.
The fact that...
look at it now.
Hold on.
Look at it.
The fact
look at what they have said. Upon conclusion of the evidence by both parties, both learned councils were ordered by the court for their final... Look at it. Just go on and you will see where it is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No.
I'm trying to explain what was the decision that was...
You're taking me off the judgment.
No. The issue here...
Okay, Charles, I'm listening.
...is both the judgment and the call by the CSOs for the Senate president to step down.
The call is baseless.
To step aside. The question they said that it raises is this: having been a confirmed beneficiary, and they draw that conclusion because the person who essentially, according to INEC, supported him in trying to transfer votes to him. They took votes from the PDP to the APC.
I don't understand.
That having done that...
A professor that declared the PDP winner...
Senator Akpabio does not have the legal or moral standing to contest for a seat in the 10th Assembly because of what happened in the 9th Assembly.
Charles, why is this senseless? Professor Ogban declared Ekpe of the PDP the winner of the election. So how would you now say that Professor Ogban was trying to help Akpabio? For someone who lost an election and went to the tribunal and had to go to the Court of Appeal. Now you're saying that Professor Ogban, who declared Chris Ekpe the winner of the election, I am told
by INEC, and I'm getting
You're not told by INEC.
Hold on,
you are getting a third-party report from a jaundiced... I'm telling you. Sorry to say I'm using that word.
I was not there, but I was told
I am
told that Senator Akpabio participated in the rerun in his local government and lost.
He didn't participate. Everybody knows that Senator Akpabio withdrew from that election. He announced that
I am told by the electoral commission that he participated.
Just go to
I can't really say another way.
A simple check, Charles.
I can't
will
see.
tell you that.
Well, that's the check that we've
check
done.
will tell you that
we have gone to the people who conducted the election, and they're telling us that he participated.
He withdrew from that election. He never participated from that election.
In the rerun in his local government?
Yes, he was never part of it. That election was held. Only PDP ran for that election. He was not a candidate for that election. This is why I tell you that there is a pattern. The pattern here is just to look for an Akpabio.
But why would they want to look for an Akpabio?
It's strange. If you don't come from this angle,
the allegation.
Because they believe he's maybe because of his closeness to the president, because of his stabilizing factor. You see,
I don't understand
a senator just left here. And what were you people talking about? About a motion to set up a security retreat to take headlong. Now, if it was before now, they will tell security, they will summon the NSA, summon the chief of army staff, summon all the security chiefs, and maybe it will be business as usual. But now they're looking into what is the root cause of why we have had this repeated security problems in Nigeria. This is the same Senate that has had 5 regional development commissions passed under it. This is the same Senate that has had NEL fund for the first time in the history of the Senate.
But
I'm not here to reel out the.
I understand
I'm not here to reel out the achievements of the Senate.
But people are making the argument that instead of wasting money in a conference, the Senate should have strengthened its oversight of the security sector.
That is not a waste of money.
That's
not a waste of money. That is going into the details and taking it headlong, the real root cause of why we have had this security problem over and over again. Charles, you must also
I've got to tell you, Senate.
Yeah? You're giving me. I've
got to tell you, Kenny. Yeah? I rather preferred you as an analyst.
You're not preferred as an analyst. No, but because
I think you're very good as an analyst.
No, but I'm not
sure you're very good at what you're doing.
No, I stayed on facts because none of the facts you presented can hold water. One, Senator Akpabio never ran for that rerun.
I'm glad you called them facts.
Yes. One, he was not a beneficiary of the 2019 election. These are facts that are sacred. And so why do you now come and tag a man who was not a beneficiary of a process to now be indicted for the process?
Right.
Professor Ogban is already serving his time, and I'm sure he would have learned his lessons. They should leave Senator Akpabio out of it. They should look for another way to come in. They tried to come in with the allegations of sexual harassment. That has not held water. Now you're coming through this. But in all this, he will weather the storm. That's
as I said, there's a lot of, I'm getting even more stuff, but unfortunately we're out of time. It was really...
No, Charles, a great time to be here to argue with you for the first time like this.
You got your right of reply, and I'm glad that at least you know that when it comes to Arise News, we're always down the middle. And we try to give both sides a chance to air their views. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see
I
you
appreciate
again.
Charles. It's been...
Kenny Okolugbo is a communications and strategy consultant, amongst other things, in the office of the Senate President. Good to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much indeed. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.